Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Liezel joining us once again. We had a little hiatus, and I sure missed her beautiful face and her positive energy. For those of you just on the podcast, you can't see her, but she's gorgeous. MyTeenLifeCoach.com. She's a beautiful soul here, helping so many adults, adolescents, and families with the work that she does. Welcome. How have you been, and how's your family, first and foremost?
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be back, Jill. I know it feels like it was Thanksgiving when we were last together,
My
right?
goodness.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh.
But in the meantime, family is good. Kids are great. Our 17-year-old, we just had her pre-college counselor meeting, and really, it was just awesome to see how amongst all the hard stuff that they get so underestimated. I actually had to text her afterwards because it happened during school and apologize to her. I said, I humbly apologize to you. I severely underestimated you. She was like GPA of 4, dual enrollment next year. Like the counselor was just going on. And of course, what we see at home is somebody who can't get up in the mornings, and then they don't like clean their rooms, and it's just like we see all that stuff, and then lo and behold, when you check in on the school side, it's like, what? There's this little rock star on the other side of all of this. And then my 19-year-old is like on the college honor roll, and and both of these girls have had like a severely challenging year just on the personal side of things. So it's just like, wow, okay, something is going well and doing something right somewhere along the line.
Congratulations. That's great. Oh my gosh. So my oldest turned 8 in January, and my little guy turns 5 on Friday. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That's our update, but things have been going well. Yeah, just moving through the winter.
You look
for
great.
those that may not know you, say my hair's back today. I took all my extensions out so I have a bun because my hair's please introduce yourself, Liezel.
Yes. Oh, messy buns, by the way, that's the hot mom look. So just
thanks.
So my name is Liezel. I am the founder and the owner of MyTeenLifeCoach.com. We operate all through America, Canada, and in Europe, and honestly anywhere else in the world where teenagers and parents could need us, especially from a cultural diversity perspective. And what we do is we focus on research-based strategies and methodologies that help teenagers build life skills, resilience, academic resilience, personal resilience, and actually just navigate through the hard 10 years of going through the adolescent phase and helping them get into that next launch, what we call launch into like mini adulthood. So yeah, we probably see 8 to 16 patients or clients per week, and we have a lot of joy and just fulfillment in the purpose that we have as a company. So I love this work.
Beautiful. Well, we're excited to have you here. And what did you have for us in mind today?
I know. I even had to kind of go back and think, what did we cover the last time we met? But then when I looked back on all of just what we've been dealing with, I was, the newsletter that I sent out to our parents and our families just before Christmas, or actually just before the New Year, was really just to kind of look at not New Year's resolutions, more what gets in the way of those, so-called New Year's resolutions. You and I both know kids see it a little differently still, but there's nothing different between December 31st and January 1. And now we're at the end of January, beginning of February. Wow. And one of the biggest things that we're working with, most commonly thing we're working with, is procrastination.
Yeah, guilty.
So we go in with really good intentions, right? We set our intentions, we have that downtime during the holiday break, and we have these thoughts, and then lo and behold, before we know it, we're already procrastinating, we're already looking for excuses for why we don't want to study, etc. And this is a human affliction. It's not just on teenagers, but they feel it the most because of the stage that they're going through, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So I thought we could talk about that a little bit. How about that?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Okay.
MyTeenLifeCoach.com. If you're just tuning in, don't forget MyTeenLifeCoach.com. You may know someone who could really use Liezel's services and her team. They're great people. Just in case you're tuning in now. Yeah, MyTeenLifeCoach.com.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
All right. So I think as a precursor, let's just talk a little bit about the research that's around procrastination in general. So all of the research and the statistics around it, case studies around it, basically centers around two findings. The first one is any adolescent who does self-reflection. So the key word is self-reflection on how they approach learning or their tasks. And honestly, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the learning process because that's the homework and the studying and, all that kind of stuff. But obviously, cleaning up rooms and doing your chores and stuff like that has a part to play in all of that. So it kind of, broad blanket. But self-reflection is the most important thing on what differentiates kids who successfully manage procrastination versus those who do not. So that's the one thing, is being aware of what trips me up, what makes me feel unmotivated, what makes me feel like, ugh, I just don't want to do this thing, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it goes a little bit deeper, is into three specific subfactors, and that is like, how do they prepare? So you're at school, you already know what's going to happen when you open the front door, and you've already decided how you're going to self-sabotage yourself, or how you're going to prepare, right? So kids who can already be aware of that actual little mini gremlin dynamic in their brains, kids who then have awareness of what it takes or what they need in order to be able to learn and get there. So for example, I have one amazing young lady that I work with. She literally will say to me, if I come home and I open that door, if I take my jeans off and slip into pajama pants or whatever, that's it. Game over. I know I'm gonna procrastinate. But if I keep my denim jeans on, I will actually sit at the dining room table and I will actually do my work. So that is like her being aware of what it is that she needs in order to work or think productively about what she wants to do, right? And then the third part is having the skill or knowledge on what resources they need. So that requires, like, whether it's time management, whether it's I need a snack first, whether it's I got to put my phone away, whether like whatever those resources are, there's a wide variety of resources. Those kids that meet those three criteria, every single time, 100% of the time, they will outperform their peers.
Interesting.
So like in a nutshell, right? Do I know what I'm going to deal with when I get home? Do I know what I have to prepare for and what my triggers are? And do I know what resources I'm going to use, right? So if you've got a kid who is stressed out or something's going on and there's a, like, let's say a relative in the hospital, time management's not going to be great, right? So, but being aware of it then allows them to pull in the resources that they need in order to do it. So let's just talk about what are the resources, because I get a lot of that as well. And that is like, okay, so time management, study tools, like, is that, did I leave my math calculator at school or did I bring it home with me? Do I need to be able to log into some kind of portal? Do I need to have a clean room, or do I just stay out of my room until I've done my work? There's different study methods, obviously, like whether it's rote learning or practice and stuff. Those are all resources, knowing what it is that you need. And then, of course, you've got the more obvious ones like tutors, and food or background music, kind of the more obvious things. But all of those are resources. So it can be anything and everything that helps that adolescent like move to the next level, right? So then now we go to actual procrastination. So how does that actually fit into all of this? And what happens is, the bottom line is, it gets in the way of learning. Whether it's you didn't clean your room, didn't clean your room is actually going to get in the way of learning.
Okay.
If you didn't have a shower or you didn't, have a snack, that's going to get in the way of your learning.
Okay.
If you had an argument with your mom, that's going to get in the way of your learning, right? So anything and everything that surrounds the broader definition of finding a way to not do what you're supposed to do that's good for you is going to be in your way, right? So then what we did was we looked at what are the causes of procrastination, so the typical causes. So there's basically like 3 or 4 major ones. The first one is overwhelm. That's a really typical one, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm tired, it's a lot to do, I've got deadlines for tomorrow, and then they just added on another project, and it's a group project on top of that, and I don't like the kids I have to work with in this group project, right? All of that is totally relevant, and it's legit, right? It's not it doesn't make the kid a bad kid, but overwhelm is a real thing. We all experience that. And then there's fear of failure and fear of success. So fear of failure is obvious. I don't want to get it wrong or be bad at it, so I'm going to just avoid it, right? Or fear of success. If I do really well at this, then more will be added on my plate, or it's going to require more responsibility of me, or I have to now divide my time yet again for something else, right? Okay, then there's the typical lack of motivation. I just don't want to do it. And then there's lack of confidence. I don't think I can do it.
Okay.
All of those are legit. They're completely legit. So when you are waiting till the last minute to do something, it's going to force you to be stressed, and it's going to force your self-confidence to start to dip, because it's going to create learning interference. When you are leaving things to the last minute, it will force you to want to cheat or take the path of least resistance. So that's when you're going to turn to the answers page or phone a friend and just copy down their answers, or it's going to have you just really write that essay at a very surface level and not actually engage in a learning process through writing that essay, for example. It's going to force you to do minimal effort. So before you will have spent an hour on it, it will be 20 minutes, right? So we can all relate to this. We can all relate to this.
Yeah.
It also forces you to not absorb the content. So that's going to be the long-term ramifications is you will have gone through all the stress and what you call effort, which is not really effort, but it's not really going to sink in. And on the brain side, 2 very important things then do not happen. The first part is the brain synapses are not making connections for learning. So, you're not practicing that particular formula, or you're not rote learning any particular things that you just for AP history or whatever, right? Your brain is not going to connect the learning that needs to take place there. And also your brain doesn't then access the deeper learning. So then your memory is going to fail you, which then makes your stress levels higher, because now it's not in your quote unquote muscle memory, right? So those are nobody wants that. We all just no, don't want to do that, right? So what I wanted to do is just share the steps that we will go through when we are actually working with a client on procrastination. So I'll kind of use this as an example. It's a combination of different clients who have thrown different things at me, so I just kind of combined a few of them for us today. But let's say, for example, I will ask one of my clients, why do you procrastinate on the things that will benefit you? Okay. So your typical kind of answer will be well, I really want to get my homework done, but before I know it, I've napped for 2 hours, right? I really feel so unmotivated. And when I'm unmotivated, then I start scrolling. And then before I know it, it's dinner time and I've done nothing. And all I've done is been on Snapchat.
That's so true.
Right?
It's so true.
Time passes like that when you are finding a distraction. So the first step that we go into when we're going into that into helping that awareness build with our clients is the first question I will ask is, what is the short-term benefit to you procrastinating? Because there's always a short-term benefit, always. So for example, it could be, it's so hard, but if I just rest a little, then I'll feel better and I'll do it later. Right? So I'll do it later becomes the benefit. Or I'll scroll for a while and just kind of get this distraction out of the way, and then I'll do it. Okay, short-term benefit. Another one could be like, the deadline is only Friday, so I don't have to worry about it today. Right? So and then there's like the sneaky benefits as well. It's like, if I delay, then what was the one that said, if I delay, they'll forget that they asked me to do it.
Yeah.
Right? If I just don't mention it, or if I just don't turn it in, the piles of paper that are on the teacher's desk, like they'll just forget that it was something I had to turn in, right? Or if I like this, I get a lot with group projects or stuff that are needed to be made up. It would be like, well, I won't be asked to do anything more because I still have to turn some things in. So keep things on the back burner so that my teacher won't ask me to do anything more than is required for me to just get the basics in. So those are like your manipulative little sneaky ways of procrastinating. So believe me, I have completely heard all of them across the gamut. Maybe one day I'll write a little funny little book that says everything that is procrastination, well, all the things people say to procrastinate. All right, so that's the first question, is what's the benefit to you? The next question is, what's the cost?
Yep.
There's going to be a cost. So here's the example is, well, I get so stressed out for leaving it to the last minute, and then I get mad at myself. So what happens is I feel crappy about myself, I look down on myself, and I start to feel that sense of failure. Also, another cost is, of course, it creates conflict with the parents, because then they get the email from the teacher, or they're looking at the grades on the portal and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, lo and behold, I can't tell you how many parents send me screenshots of their grades from the portal, and like zeros or quiz not turned in or whatever the case is. And so the cost is conflict. Right? There's going to be that conflict between the parent and the adolescent. And then the other one is, I can't think straight because things just pile up. So that overwhelm just starts to pile and pile and pile. And then before you know it, they're sick, or they don't want to go to school that next day, or there's this complete meltdown that happens, which then renders them incapable of going to school the next day. And as a result of that, that's going to then put them even further behind, right? So that's step number 2. Once we've identified that, now what we'll do is we'll start to break it down. And there are various little tips that I will always help them with. And that is so let's say, for example, the task is, I need to clean my room. I know that when I can clean my room, I will feel more productive in doing my schoolwork, right? So let's say we get to that point. So the very first thing that I will try to help that teenager with is, what's the first thing you must do to get started? The tiniest, easiest, quickest win. So maybe it's just grab everything that's on the floor and throw it in the laundry basket. Maybe it's that, right? And what you want to do is,
so guilty,
this is for parents, is when you're coaching your kid on this, it's something that they need to be able to see a win on in the first 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes are key, because if you can go get a realistic win in the first 15 minutes, the chances of you getting momentum and moving on to the next thing is going to be a whole lot better, right? So typically, if I'm working with a teenager, I will then say, okay, so you're sitting in your room, and they'll show me around with their camera, and I'll say, okay, where's your desk? And then they'll show me the desk. And then I'll say, okay, so what's the very first thing you can do to just clear your desk and not let the stuff around you bother you? Okay, these and these things. Okay, how long will it take for you to get that done? Like 10 minutes. Okay, Either I will stay on with them and do it while we're in our session, or it's something that they will take a picture of and send to us later, right?
Yep.
So it's that quick, easy win. Then what we'll do is we'll say, okay, now what time do you want to start? Let's be specific. There's something powerful about a teenager saying something out loud where it carries like energy behind it. And my mantra around that is action comes first, motivation comes second. Just get started. Okay. People think motivation needs to come first. Not true.
Okay.
Just do it, like Nike, just do it, and then you'll feel motivated after that. All right. And then what we do is we start to talk about the obstacles. Okay, so you're going to do these things. You're going to do it in the next 15 minutes. What could possibly get in the way? Oh, well, my friend's going to, we're making plans for the weekend and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll actually create a what if plan. If this happens, then that, and we go and we meet that challenge before it can even arise, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And the thing is, when you have a buddy as a teenager, it really helps a lot, because a lot of these kids are, parents are at work during the day, they're coming home, they just got home on the bus, mom isn't back yet, stuff like that. Then the other thing is, once we've done the top two things, like let's say I'll get distracted with Instagram, or I may not be in the mood, all right, then so we deal with that, we get in front of that. And then the last thing is, what are the very best solutions for the obstacles that are going to make you feel so much better? So for example, if I put my phone away and I just leave it in the other room, I will feel prouder of myself. I'll actually feel better about myself. And then I will feel more focused, right?
I agree.
So, and then what we do is we talk about the substitutes. So like, if the thought process is like a little bit iffy, often we will start by saying, okay, text me the worry that you have, like, oh, I really want to go check my Instagram account right now. Like just text it to me. Just text it, just say it out loud.
Yeah.
And we don't even respond to it, but at least there's like, I put it out there, right? So, and then of course, after we get momentum, we start to build these things, and it starts to become easier. We start to build substitutes for bad days. And then we do like a credit building system. We really make sure that they, at the beginning of that next session, or whenever we're talking to them about it, is what worked for you? What are you proud of doing? What do you want to repeat and do again?
Yeah.
And so, for example, there's one sophomore that I'm working with right now. We're actually creating a visual of her cycle after school every day, like get home, 30 minutes this, then at this time do this, and it's like a little round circle that you just draw.
Okay.
She just draws that on a piece of paper and puts it on her, wherever it's the most visible. And then it's like staring her in the face. And what we realized with her was that after procrastinating, a task took her 45 minutes longer than if it would have if she didn't procrastinate. So when we broke it down and we were able to show that actually this task was only 20 minutes long when you're focused, but when you don't, it becomes a 45-minute long thing and you're freaked out and stressed afterwards. So sometimes having that visual, like actually doing the math with them on this is what happens when I procrastinate, this is what happens when I don't, they're like, oh my God, why am I making myself suffer like this, right?
So true. Yep.
So that's like what we wrote about in our newsletter, and kind of the most common thing that we're working with teenagers, and just helping the parents understand as well. Because what we don't understand sometimes is, as parents, we get very frustrated with the kids, and we're just like, why can't you just do it?
Yeah.
Well, because I'm a teenager, I have hormones raging, I'm tired all the time. There's a lot on my plate. I'm out of the door by like 6:20 in the morning.
I can't, but my nephew, when he spoke to Jonathan, he's leaving at 5:30 a.m. now, and he's got special needs. And I'm like, what? Jen's like, his lunch is at 9 a.m. Like, that's just inhumane.
It's insane.
I don't find that beneficial to a child's health. I'm not a doctor, but I could see what it does to him. Let alone anxiety, now to wake up extra early, to go to bed early. It's very hard for a special needs child, especially.
And that's special needs, right? So so think about much harder it is compared to just a normal functioning kid. But when you think about, here's one of the things that is really interesting is you will say to your kid, okay, you're going to go to school all day. You're going to leave at like 6:30 in the morning. You're only going to get home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Now you've got to come home, do the dishes, take out the trash, blah, blah, blah. Instead of, by the way, let's go and take a 30-minute break, get my thoughts together, and so that I can actually focus on all of the work I still have to do before tomorrow. So I think as parents, we lose perspective of how long their days really, really are sometimes.
Perfect. Well, we do. And we're almost out of time. So I
Oh
apologize.
my gosh, you're kidding.
We got 2 more minutes. Go for it.
So fast. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, we got to the bottom of it pretty well. I always forget how quickly our sessions go together.
I know. Well, how did you want to sum it up?
Well, honestly, procrastination is part of adolescence, and don't work against it, work with it. Bottom line. So if kids are really struggling, and mostly if there's conflict and the parents are struggling with working with it, they can always, so there's a number of things. Go to our website. On there, you're going to see when our think tank, we have a parents think tank once a month. We have all the podcast recordings from our sessions together, Jill. There are so many resources, and you can always sign up for our newsletter. It's super content rich. So, honestly, just go to the website, because there's so many easy and free resources for parents that can help them with stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Looking forward to the next time we get to connect. And
Absolutely.
Can't wait to see you live and in person February 18th. Yeah.
I know.
All right, you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, sweetheart.
Thanks, Jill. Take care.
Thank you. And to all of our listeners, we'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.